Hello, stitchy friends. Welcome to my very first Flosstube. My name is Shauna, and I'm recording from a suburb of Buffalo, New York, where I was born and raised, and where I live with my husband and my two small children and our two kitties. So if you don't already know, I also have on the same channel a knitting podcast. My channel is called Adelaide Cottage. The reason I call it that is because growing up, my grandmother and grandfather owned a family cottage in Fort Erie, Ontario, in Canada. And I basically grew up there. Every weekend we would drive up there from Buffalo. My mom would take us, my sister and I, and all summer long, every single day we would be there. And there was a huge in-ground swimming pool, and we had homemade Italian sauce and pasta every day that we were there, basically. My grandma made amazing sauce. And so it was on Adelaide Street. And so when I opened up my Etsy shop, which I will leave the link in the down bar if any of you are interested in hand-dyed yarn or handmade project bags or anything like that, that's where I keep them. I knew I wanted to name my shop Adelaide Cottage. And so a couple of years ago, I started a knitting podcast because I fell in love with knitting. And I wanted a place to share those projects and ideas and just be part of the knitting community. And I have loved it so very much and made amazing friends along the way. I'm a multi-crafter. So knitting was my first love. I still absolutely love it. I will continue to love it. I'm obsessed with it. I love to knit socks, sweaters, shawls, everything. This is actually a hand knit cardigan that I'm wearing. But I also am in love with other needlework. Cross stitch. I haven't really done much with embroidery, but I love cross stitching. I do the Bucilla stocking kits, I quilt, I crochet, I sew garments. I've only sewn a couple of garments in my life, but it's something that I really want to get better at. I've made a dress and a shirt. So I make soap. What else do I do? I'm looking around my craft room here so that I do card making, a lot of stuff, you guys, and I love it. It keeps me busy. It keeps me happy. But my knitting podcast, I don't know how many knitters are interested in everything else that I do. And as I'm falling more in love with cross stitching, I really wanted to talk more about it. And my knitting episodes are already almost an hour long. So I thought I would make a separate Flosstube videos, and I will label them accordingly in the title. It will say Flosstube when it's cross stitch related. If it doesn't say Flosstube, it's knitting related. So that's how I'm going to work it. I hope that you all enjoy, and I hope that some of my knitting friends take cross stitch up and learn how to do it, and vice versa. If you're interested in knitting, I encourage you to watch my knitting podcast for some inspiration. I'd be happy to answer questions. And yeah, so that kind of answered one of the Know Your Needleworker tags, which is what hobbies do I have besides stitching? Quite a few. And I love it like that. Can you imagine? I know a lot of you friends in the Flosstube world have such a passion and love for cross stitching. Can you imagine having that for other hobbies as well? Because that's kind of the way I feel. I feel the love of cross stitch. I feel the excitement when, you're working on a project or you have one in mind or you're kitting it up or, you get new haul. It's like a rush and you get so excited about it. And I feel that for knitting. I feel that for quilting. It's just amazing. I love this creative world. I love filling my home with handmade things. Putting hand knits on our feet, on our bodies, and now with cross-stitching, hanging up handmade items in our home to make it extra warm and cozy. Okay, so where do I live? A suburb of Buffalo, New York. I've lived here all my life except for 2 or 3 years. We moved about an hour and a half south for my husband to attend the pharmacy school that he wanted to go to. And that was located in Erie, Pennsylvania. And we love living there as well, but there's nothing like being near family. What kind of work do I do? So I'm a registered nurse, a labor and delivery, and a certified lactation counselor. However, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare cancer in my spinal cord. There's a tumor growing inside of the center of my spinal cord in my neck area. I did have surgery to have it removed, but it was too infiltrated or grown into the healthy spinal cord tissue that it was too dangerous. Once they opened me up, it was too dangerous to try to remove it. They said I would have been quadriplegic. So the side effects from the tumor and from the surgery to have the tumor removed, I have some disabilities from that. So I'm not able to work right now as a nurse on my feet. Yeah, I get into it a little bit more on my knitting podcast. I think the very first episode I explained it a little bit more. So yeah, so for now, I'm home with my children. I craft a lot. My youngest is 5. He's going to be 5 in June. My oldest is 10. And when my 5-year-old goes to kindergarten in September, I'm going to be volunteering, just sitting with patients, maybe in hospice, or maybe kind of helping women through labor, kind of like a doula, but not a doula role, just kind of being a friend and being supportive for people who may not have support people with them. I think I need that for my soul to kind of, because I love nursing so much, and especially the type of nursing I was doing. So that's where I am now. And I also hand dye yarn. So that's what I sell in my Etsy shop. And I have a lot of fun doing that. Do I have kids? Yes, 2 boys, almost 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. And we are done. Well, you should never say never. You never know what the Lord will bless us with, but we are done trying, I should say. What hobbies do I have besides stitching? I already explained that. What is my favorite movie? Okay, so I have to say all the Harry Potter movies. And they're my favorite books as well, because that's another question. What's my favorite music? Okay, so when I was a teenager and even a young girl, Mariah Carey was my idol. I loved her. Loved her music, loved ballads. I don't love her music anymore. Her new style that she has with her music, but I still love her old music. So she's my favorite, and I also love country. I love a little bit of folk. I love Lionel Richie, all the oldies but goodies. What is one word to describe me? I would say passionate or sentimental. I don't think I can pick one. I'm a very sentimental person. For instance, if items mean a lot to me, people mean a lot to me, things people give me mean a lot to me. So if I'm looking at my rack of yarn over here and there's a story or a feeling or something that goes with each one of them. So when I look at one skein of dyed yarn, I'm thinking about, one of my knitting friends that dyed it. There's another hand spun skein over there, and I'm thinking about my friend who spun it for me, and it took hours and hours. So I'm sentimental in that way. And I'm passionate because when I go in for something, I go in all the way. I put my whole heart into it. I put my whole soul into it. So that's, I don't know. I probably should have asked my husband, but I didn't think of it when he was home before he left for work. So that's just a little bit about me. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. But I'm going to show you some stitching. So also, before I get into the stitching, I've been loving watching Flosstube. I watch a lot of Flosstube now. It's really cool that there's, you know, I'm opened up to a whole new world of community of stitchers. I don't have any stitchy friends that live in my area. I do have one who lives in Idaho, and she might join me here for like a dual screen type Flosstube if we can figure it out. Her name is Emily, and she's lovely, and she is the one who inspired me to start cross-stitching. She actually made me that, this right here. We did a stitchy swap, and this is, oh my gosh, I love this so much. So this is the Summer Gardens, I believe it's called, by Country Cottage Needleworks. And she took the lyrics from my very favorite song and replaced them with what was on the chart. And then this is all, you know, called for. It's all charted, but she changed the kitty cat to be orange like one of mine instead of, I think it was gray on the chart. And the bees have, you see the sparkle? So pretty. I love this so much. So she made that for me. Yeah. So I do have one FFO. This is Happy Happy Easter by Lizzie Kate. And I finished it the night before Easter and then made it into a little pillow for our mantle. I did not use the called for threads. I used DMC variegated for the words, and then just a plain DMC for the carrots, the orange in the carrots, and a variegated for the leaves. I think it was 322 maybe. I could be completely wrong. And then I just sewed 3 of my own buttons that I had in stash on there. And I put these little pom-poms, I don't know what you call them, in between the fabric as I sewed, and then I backed it with this cute Easter fabric. Is it focusing? There we go. So yeah, I like the way this came out. No, that's the only FFO I have. I wanted to show you my very first cross stitch project though. I started this years ago. And this is Tea Time by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I haven't finished it, but that's where I am. I really like this one. I should probably finish it up. This is stitched on Aida. I don't remember the count because back then when I did this, I don't think I knew the difference in the numbers. I don't think I even knew what they meant. So this is old. This is an old whip that I really need to finish up. Then when I got serious and Emily inspired me, I started the Little Sheep Virtues by Country Cottage Needleworks, because what is a knitter to stitch but sheep, right? Yarn comes from wool, wool comes from sheep. So I went ahead and purchased all of the Little House Needleworks charts for that. So there are 12 of them if you don't know already, and I am on the 3rd one, which is Peace. And I'll show you my project, but my progress in just a minute. You probably hear my children screaming. They're just playing. That's how they play, apparently. So this is being stitched on a 32 count butter pecan, or is it southern butter pecan? I don't remember, but that's the color. And this is what I have so far. So there's hope, love, and this is the beginning of peace. And then I'm using a little sheep needle minder. So I'm doing this 3 across and 4 down, and just making a nice big piece for the wall. And for the sheep, I'm using Whisper thread. The rest is all DMC, but the Whisper it makes the sheep a little bit fluffy. And I'll show you the thread for that in a minute. And then I also bought all the buttons for the piece too, which I'll put on at the end. And this I'm keeping in a bag from Chicken Boots USA. They have their own website, but it looked like cross stitch to me, so I thought it was perfect. And there's their tag. They sell all different shapes and sizes. I love their bags. They're made in the USA and they're handmade, and I love them. And then this is the little pouch that it comes with. And here are some of the whispers. So I have the bright white, the charcoal, I don't know what these color, W62 is this one here. The white was W88. This tan one is W90. And there's an ivory that's W89. And I didn't do any color changes. It's all the called for DMCs. And I'm still really excited about that project. The other whip that I have going is Christmas Land by Raise the Roof Designs. This one is out of print, but I heard something that, just a second. Okay. Sorry about that. My phone was ringing. I heard that their designs are going to be coming back into print, or at least some of them. But this is what the finished project will look like. You can still get these on eBay. Jeez, my phone is blowing up. I'm so sorry. You can still sometimes find these on eBay, these charts, but this is, let me see if I can hold it still. The street is filled with visions grand, a lovely night in Christmas land. How cute is that? My goodness. And these are called for, could you see that? They call for silk threads, but I am subbing them out, and I'll let you know what colors I'm using in just a minute. But, so this is stitched on, is it Picture This Plus Dapple or Dabble? I think it's Dapple. It's kind of like a dreary sky color, and that's what I have so far. I made that needle minder. Thought it was perfect for this project. And then I started on the fence right there. So this blue for the words and the smoke coming out of the chimney is Merlin. And that's Weeks Dye Works, I believe. Let me see. Yes, Merlin. The snow is called Snowflake by Weeks Dye Works, and it has kind of like an opalescent look to it. You can see a little bit of pink, a little blue. It's really pretty because that's kind of what the snow looks like, at least here in Buffalo when the sun hits it. The fence, I'm using Driftwood by Weeks Dye Works. The trees are Weeping Willow. What else is there? There's quite a few that I didn't get to yet. But I will let you know my progress as I go along. Oh, the red door. I'm using Weeks Dye Works Candy Apple and the Candy Cane. And the yellow for the tree star and ornaments is Weeks Dye Works Honeysuckle. So I really want to stitch on this. I really love this project. And this is a stitch along that I'm doing with my friend Emily. And I made us both project bags to kind of go with the theme of the project. And it is, I made it using Vana of the Twisted Stitchers tutorial. But how perfect is that fabric for this project? Can you even handle it? I love it. And then the inside is lined with this smoky colorway. Looks like the dreary sky. And lastly, for cross stitch whips, I have the Farmhouse Christmas. By Little House Needleworks. This one I'm using all the called for threads, which is all Classic Colorworks, and some DMC, I think. Yeah. For this one, I'm stitching on a coffee tea-dyed Monaco 28 count using the tutorial from Priscilla and Chelsea. I decided to do it all as one piece again. There's going to be 9 of them, so 3 across, 3 down. And I also chose to do the border. So this border will be on all 4 corners, for those of you who haven't seen that yet. So this is the Old Red Barn, horsing around, and I had my little horse needle minder. And for this one, I did switch. The original design was beautiful, but I loved Priscilla's mirrored horse, but then when I was doing it, I was like, oh, I'll make the second little horse smaller to look like a little baby. So that's what I did, and then I added a tree over here. And the next one, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, it's Grandpa's Pickup. So I will be starting that one today. I really love this series. So I'm I stitch in hand, I stitch in a hoop, I stitch in Q-snaps. I think it just depends on my mood and what project I'm working on. If it's a larger project, like this one, I feel like a Q-snap is better for me. If it's small, like the Happy Easter, I did that in a hoop because I felt like there wasn't a lot of fabric to handle, and the hoop was very light compared to a Q-snap. And then sometimes I stitch in hand. It just depends. So those are my cross stitch whips. I would love to start more. I have a 4-inch binder loaded with cross stitching patterns because you need all the things, right? But I can't have too many things going on because then I'll never finish them, especially because I don't solely cross stitch. I also knit, so I have knitting whips. I quilt, so I have quilting whips. I just have to kind of stay focused. So I think 3, maximum of 4 is kind of a good balance for me as far as whips are concerned. So other stitching that I've been doing, I want to make the whole family, so our 2 boys and my husband and I, the Bucilla stocking kits. So these are all felt felt stocking kits from Busilla. You can find some of them on their website, but the ones that I'm doing are discontinued, and I bought them on eBay. So this one is Evan's, which is my almost 5-year-old, and this is just needs to be taken care of. I just have that stuck on there for now. But basically everything comes in a sheet of felt. You have to cut out the shapes, do some applique, stitch them together, stuff some of the things, and then attach it to the green backed stocking. And a lot of it has sequins with a bead in the center that you have to put on one by one. So they're very time consuming, but I love doing them. So this is Evan's, and once this is finished, I'm going to move on to Aiden's. And Aiden is totally a cat guy, and he wanted this one. This one was really hard to find, but it also lights up. See him? Santa's sleeping with a quilt with the 2 kitty cats. We have an orange cat and a white cat, so I do plan to change one of these cats to white. This is adorable. And I forgot to bring the other 2 out to show you. The one I chose and the one my husband chose. This one lights up. Did I tell you that? Where does it light up? I have no idea. It's a good question. I have no idea. But yeah, so these are, I would love to have all 4 done by Christmas, but we'll see. They take a long time. Okay, so I also love to thrift shop, and I've been picking up, before I get into that, I want to show you my quilt, because there's just one. I won't talk a lot about it, but I did make a quilt recently, and this is the Jelly Roll Race Quilt technique. Missouri Star Quilt Company has a wonderful tutorial on YouTube, which I will link below if you're interested. So you just buy a jelly roll of fabric, which are the 2.5-inch strips, and this was the fastest quilt I've ever made. Literally took like an hour and a half for me to sew the whole quilt top together. And then you have to put your batting in and back it, and then bind it. So this is it. You can kind of get the idea. And then I backed it with this really cute chick flannel so that it's nice and cozy, because like I said, it's still chilly here in Buffalo in March and most of April. And then I hand bound, I hand sewed the binding on. And I had this like raindrop fabric that I used. I thought the yellow went really well with it. So the last time I machine bound a quilt, I wasn't crazy about the result. So I tried hand binding and I loved it. It did take about 2 hours to bind it by hand for me, but that was the first time I did it. So I was kind of slow at it. But it was relaxing. I just felt like I was stitching, and it makes the quilt extra special because you have that special hand sewn touch added on. And then I put on one of my little labels, if I could find the corner that has it. Here it is. It just says Made with Love SLM, which are my initials. And these I purchased at Green Deep on Etsy. And I'll try to remember to include that link for you if you're interested. I have wooden ones, and then I have these ones here. So that's my quilt. The next one, I actually have another quilt top made. I'll show you the next time because I have to find backing for it. Okay, so I love thrift shopping, and Priscilla inspires me, Chelsea inspires me, just like they do almost everybody else, in their way of finishing things instead of the traditional framing, which is absolutely beautiful as well. But I have that farmhouse decor in my house as well, so I started collecting these when I go to a thrift shop. So they had half off all blue tag, so it was, I think, $2.39 regular price, so it was $1.20 plus tax. So I plan to do like a chalk paint in the back and then use a magnet to attach my work. I found this one, needs to be cleaned, but it's cute. Same thing, I plan to paint it. I'll probably paint it white. That was like $3.39 regular price. And this one I love. This will be pretty with a nice square cross-stitch piece in the center. And I found something super exciting, which I'm going to include a little video because it would be too difficult for me to hold up to show you. But it's one of those like accordion style fold out sewing chests, I guess you would call it. I found that at Goodwill for $25, and I went online to look, and they sell for anywhere between $100 and $200 depending which kind it is. So it was in wonderful shape. It has perfect little compartments for fancy floss. And there's storage at the bottom for my whips. 2 whips I think I could fit in there, maybe 3. So I will include a little clip so that you can see, but I'm really excited about that. I thought it was a great deal. All right, so I have some haul to show you, and then I have a giveaway. Sorry, my swallowing was probably magnified with this microphone. I'm soft-spoken, so I'm using a little microphone so you can hear me better. This is haul that actually came in the mail today, so I thought I would show you. It was perfect timing. So I picked this up, a little Lizzie Kate snippet, Come Let Us Adore Him. I thought that would be really cute and quick to stitch for the Christmas season. That was from Sandra's Stitch Stash, I think it's called. Excuse me. This one is from The Silver Needle, and it's Brenda Gervais' Easter Peep. I ordered this 2 months ago and just got it today because it was on back order. I was hoping to have it stitched for Easter, but it just didn't come in time. So there's always next year. Can you even handle the chick's little face mask, Easter Bunny? Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it so much. And then they included this, I'm going to cover up the design. It is a freebie, but I think you have to get it at an LNS, Hands-On Design Farm Fresh. It might even be on her blog if you want to take a look, or her website. Lizzie Kate's Be Who You Are. I absolutely adore this one. On here. I want to stitch this so that my boys will see it. Be who you are. Be who you are, say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And there's a little beehive. Very cute. This one is Lizzie Kate Things Unseen Mystery Sampler. So I got all 3 parts, and all of these were from 123stitch.com. So this is what it looks like. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. So beautiful. So I just did the chart only. There was an option to add the embellishment pack, but I think I'm going to change some of the colors. So I thought the embellishments could be left out. And I can always use some, there's kind of like pearl looking buttons here. I have some of those in my stash, so. That's my haul. And lastly, I have 2 giveaways. So I actually bought 2 of these. This is what I just stitched. So if there's a chart that has been used, if it's still available to purchase, I will not buy it from somebody else or sell mine. I think the designers work very hard and they deserve every penny that they should be making on their design. So this is a second, so I have 2 of these, so I'm going to give one of these away. But if it's available online, I'm not going to purchase it from somebody else. I'd rather spend the money and give the designer my money. So this is also an unused chart. It's just something I'm not going to get to stitching anytime soon. So this is Raise the Roof Designs Spooky Fence. So also very cute. So this I had 2 of, giving one away. This one I've never stitched, giving it away. So in the comment section below, leave a comment. Don't mention giveaway or your comment will be deleted, because then we'll get all kinds of crazy entries from people who don't really cross stitch. Let me know which chart you'd like to be considered for. You have to be 18. You have to live in the US. You have to be a subscriber, and please thumbs up or like the video. So thank you so very much for hanging out with me today. In the future, I do hope to do some Stitch With Me videos. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this video, if you enjoyed it, anything you'd like to see more of or less of. But I hope you enjoyed yourself today. I enjoyed chatting with you, and I will see you next time. Bye. Okay, so here's my thrift store find. This is the accordion style sewing box that I found. See if I could do this without shaking the camera a whole lot. But the top's open like this and gives me a perfect place to put my fancy floss. So I kind of have these color coordinated a little bit, and I have more Victorian Motto Sampler Shop threads on the way. I just started my collection, and these I have separated into dyer. So this is Weeks Dye Works. I have on a ring, Classic Color Works, and Gentle Arts, or sampler threads. I don't know which one is most recent. And then the other fancy flosses that I have are in project bags. Then you open it again, and there's some room here for fabric or notions, and same thing on this side. So I have some extra needles, and then at the bottom there's plenty of space for whips, which is where I kept my 3 whips that I showed you in the video. So yay! I'm really excited about that. I think it's beautiful and perfect for what I need it for.